Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street, Verasity, VRA on the exchange. Guys, loads of videos, lack of time, let's go. Well, the whole market has been an absolute nightmare, hasn't it? But for me personally, I'm enjoying these dips. Verasity especially as well, as you've known through previous videos, it's something that I've been accumulating as I can along the way, where I want to get into a good position with it so that I can literally take a load of it out and put into staking, which I think in March comes down to around 18% APY, so it's currently 25. So what I wanted to do basically is have enough to pay off that fee from taking it from KuCoin, which isn't massive, but I thought, well, how long is it going to take me to accumulate that back with those kind of rewards? And at the time I was like, it doesn't really make much sense. So now I'm probably in a much better position to do that, especially with the corrections we've had over these two areas here. So I was down, I was buying on the average down from this market here end of December to pretty much around the 10th of January. Had this uptake here, so we came down to lower regions of around 2.5 cents, came back up to about 3.5, and then we've tanked back down again over a short period of time, so taking it from around about 13th of January to where we are today as a recording, 22nd of January. Now loads of things have happened. We've had all the talk, narratives around the world, the negativity around the world in the media. We've had also leverages again pulling Bitcoin down significantly, including other assets as well. Of course, that isn't always something that people think about or look at charts to consider whether this is a possibility of that actually happening or not. And it does indeed affect everything, and people don't always see that. They just go, oh, red, I need to take my money out, and then it flies back down. So some people protect their assets, and that's down to people as individuals to decide what they want to do, of course, because it's their money, it's their investment. But for me, I just see the opportunity. I know Verasity is an absolutely phenomenal project. We covered in the last Verasity video the upgrades that they've done to their website, including the brand new roadmap for 2022. Q1's not gigantic for Verasity from what I saw on the roadmap, to be honest, but that's not taking anything away from them. Of course, usually Q1s are quite quiet across multiple sectors and markets anyway. But for me, I was quite excited still that they're doing some big developments in tournaments and partnerships on that side of things, which will help for the VRA sports aspect, the whole view to earn. So there's loads of mechanisms still being improved, and they've got apparently some really cool gaming titles coming in as well. Then of course they got the proof of view mechanism patents going in left, right and center. I think recently we covered the ambition that they had in China as well, being the first proof of view patent in this ad stacking aspect, and ad sort of proof mechanism in China. So that's really interesting to see that development. But what am I doing with the price of Verasity right now in terms of buying, selling? Well, as I said, I've been buying on this drop down, stopped when it was going back up, and I've been buying again on this drop back down to these lower levels. What's really interesting is we did a live video yesterday, just because I had so much to talk about, and I just thought, do you know what, it's easier if I just jump on a call and we can talk about loads of stuff. And then my mobile internet died. But we drew in this line, and the reason I drew that in is not for any, some people just draw them in for the sake of it. But for me, it was about talking about over purchasing and overselling, right? Which we can see a lot in histograms and stuff like that anyway. The over purchasing and overselling aspects of markets. My point about drawing this line in was that if you were to consider or theoretically have a line that goes along some kind of trend pattern, right? So we have these lower regions, we've hit this point, so you could draw that line immediately because it already exists. Then we draw a continuous line, okay? This isn't really saying that it should be here, but my thought process around a lot of this stuff is the continuation, the gradual approach of a growth in an asset class on a chart over a long period of time. Now, what's really interesting is because, as we mentioned in the video yesterday, majority of assets have indeed shown at least around a 70% drop over a 3-month period. Look at that on the right hand side, 70%. It's always, for some reason, I don't know why, but it's slightly different when I put it using it manually. I'm not quite sure, but here we are. It's around 77 to 80%, which is very, very apparent on majority of charts right now. But going on these performance indicators as a real nice guideline, 70% pretty much bang on. This is almost essentially confirming arguably that sort of 3-month cycle process. So of course this is taking us from all-time highs back here, just under that 10 cent mark back here in the beginning of November. Okay, November, December, January. So it's very much just slightly under 3 months, which in my opinion means that we're not quite fully out of this madness yet. I'm not saying that it will completely drop down, but certainly this whole hopeful stability coming in. But one thing I wanted to point out, taking this sort of trend line aspect, we are now trading in a momentum where we're testing old ground that we mentioned in videos before, for sure. The low fib retracement levels hitting back down to here, then the next level down here, which was 0.016, right? But look at that trend line, and it's pretty much bang on. Now, this is not saying that it's miraculous discovery kind of thing. It's more about where should Verasity actually be if it was on a middle ground. Okay, so it hasn't gone under this level yet, and it's certainly transpiring itself just above it. Now, if that is the case, and that thought process of these lower fib retracement levels, which you can just about, so let me just pull that down. So you see the red one, but it's obviously taken over because of the orange line going through it. We could potentially, if Bitcoin goes down to say 30,000, drop Veracity significantly lower to arguably potentially around this 1 cent level or just slightly under it to test that and back up again, right? So I personally have actually just put in an order because I've been buying this all the way down anyway. I'll be accumulating this price point around this sort of 1.5 to 2 cent mark 100% as it is right now. So I'm just going to draw that area in, but I'm also going to put a lower region down. And I'm not saying it's definitely going to come down to that area, but I'm really intrigued to see what occurs. So I've got one, I think 1.65 cents, and then the other one is just above that 1 cent mark. That'd be really interesting. It not necessarily happens because Bitcoin does that, but maybe, just maybe, we're on this downward trend and we might just touch these areas. So that's my really interesting move right there. Why have I put that in there as well? Like I said, right now we're testing the regions across this barrier here. You look at this volatility that we had in August. Let's zoom in a bit more on that. Let's see if I can keep both in the view of this move as well. Yeah, just about. So we're now touching ground where we had a lot of interest around this area. Are we going to get support here? Yes, we did at that point in time, and off to new movements before we start getting new all-time highs and price discovery from this point onwards here in 10th of October. So looking across that line, this dip down was really interesting to me as well. And that is very much something that we tested back here in the beginning of January and obviously failed as we hit back down on the 20th of January as well a few days ago. So right now we are testing these lower regions of interest, something that's had indeed a lot of magnetism around it as well. So that's why I'm really interested in this point, but I'm also interested in the lower regions of these areas. And if you look across, you get top regions up here and a lot of back and forth across that line. So that is why I'm putting it in there. And just to be sure of exactly what I'm talking about, so I've drawn this top line. This is where I put my buy order, basically just slightly above that area, and it cuts across. Look at that, cuts across, volatility around that area like a magnet, literally like a magnet, and also confirming a support mechanism here. So it's not got enough test points in my opinion around that area, and that's why we're probably being dragged to it, and we're going to potentially test it back down at these lower regions. That's where I am waiting right now. Not to say it's definitely going to happen, but I've done a good job personally, and I'm sure many of you out there as well have been doing the same, of getting these drop downs as they come down, averaging it, my buys in those moments. And now we're approaching this lower level of fib retracement, and that means that we could potentially dip down to these areas if Bitcoin has another fall, as well as many other assets. Look at those volumes going out there. And let's confirm a few other things. We're obviously in a bear move again, having the MACD switch over. Let me just move, let me see if I can move these guys up as well. Maybe I can't. Can I? Yeah, there we go. So MACD switching over here on the 20th of January. It's not a massive drop and a massive gap just yet, so I anticipate we might get a similar move to this, but I think it's enough for us to potentially drag down just possibly to 1.5 cents. But hopefully this is a quick turnaround, and then finally we might see Verasity and all our other assets pull ourselves back up. But I am not complaining right now. Verasity, like I said, is one that I'm absolutely loving to accumulate at these prices. I remember it rising up further to around 4.7 cents, and I was buying loads of it because I was like, this is still undervalued, and it absolutely is still, in my opinion, in the long run. But then for it to come back down to these levels where I was initially buying Verasity, to have another go at it, I mean, I can guarantee I will say to myself that if I didn't do this now and we start going back to these previous all-time highs and beyond, I will be absolutely annoyed with myself for not reacting and making actions around this area. So some other positive things to consider as well. On this 6 month, we are still very nicely poised at 73% up, which is quite staggering really, considering this horrendous drop down. But it is showing you that there is strength still within us. It's almost like a mirrored image, isn't it? From these points down here in July, taking us to new all-time highs. We're coming down, but one thing for sure, this area is critical. If we do come down to these lower regions, we are indeed testing that crazy dip that we had back in July, taking us from these high points in April downwards. We've now had new high all-time highs. We've had the drop down, and it's higher than these lower drops. So right now, still, in my opinion, it looks positive. But we'll have to see. And finally, RSI moves on here as well. From a buying perspective, I'm absolutely loving it. 14-day 30. 14 days 30, absolutely brilliant. 28-day, beautiful sweet spot again at 37. You know, I always talk about it every time it comes around that 40 mark, whether it's on the 14 or the 28-day. I'm absolutely jumping in, and to see it so close on the 90-day as well around this 40 region, it's just confirmation, in my opinion, that we are hopefully coming towards this bottom and we can start to pull it back up gradually. It's going to be a long process. I'm not expecting hitting those all-time highs again for a good few months, but it would be very nice to see the stability coming up, and I will for sure still accumulate on the way up, but I'm definitely doing my business right now. Let us know in the comments below what you guys are doing out there. I'm quite excited, but yeah, I believe in the project. It's not going anywhere, and I'm sure it will return with a vengeance. I hope so. Guys, thanks for watching. We've got loads of videos to crack through here today. We will see you in the next one. Bye bye.